You're watching State of the Union. I'm John King. Let's continue now with two governors on the front lines of our economic crisis. Republican Tim Pawlenty of Minnesota, Democrat Jennifer Granholm of Michigan. And governors, as we continue the discussion, I want our viewers to understand the problems you face. Michigan's unemployment rate, 10.6%. And Governor Granholm, you're running a $1.5 billion deficit. Over here, Governor Pawlenty, your unemployment rate a little bit better, but that's still tough, 6.9%. And a nearly $5 billion deficit. In the context of this, as the stimulus money is spent, governors, I want to ask you about a proposal in both the House and the Senate to say, buy American. That if all this money is going to be spent, it should be spent on American products and American goods. You are both along our northern border. Some worry if those provisions are included, it could set off a trade war, not necessarily with Canada, but maybe with China and others. Governor Pawlenty, to you first, is that a good idea? Should Washington be regulating buy American?
Well, we have to be a little careful because the bulk of the world's economic activity is not taking place in the United States of America. So if the rest of the world takes a similar approach and we're going to eliminate our ability or diminish our ability to market our products and services to much bigger places and faster growing places, that's not a good plan for the future. That being said, there are some appropriate times and places if the price is the same or competitive where some preference might be appropriate. But when you're a small state like Minnesota or you're a big export state like Michigan or much of the upper Midwest and you start saying we're going to look inward, we're only going to buy and sell to ourselves when 80% of the economic activity is elsewhere in the globe, that's not a great strategy for the future.
Do you agree with that, Governor Granholm?
Well, I think wherever you can, you should have a preference for American-made products, American workers. That's what the stimulus is all about. If there is a way to have American products do all the retrofitting of those homes and businesses for energy efficiency, you better believe we should have a preference for that. If we believe that it's important to put people to work in America, well, let's have that money stimulating our economy rather than stimulating the economies of other countries.
Now, the stimulus debate is the big economic debate in Washington, but the new president has taken some other steps related to the economy that affect especially your state, Governor Granholm. He signed an executive order this past week that allows states to increase emission standards on automobiles if they so choose. The president says it will help the automakers, not hurt them. Let's listen.
Our goal is not to further burden an already struggling industry. It is to help America's automakers prepare for the future.
But many in your state, Governor Granholm, disagree, including Republican Congressman Mike Rogers, who said this announcement will destroy jobs in Michigan. With the stroke of a pen, the president has unleashed a hornet's nest of new local, state, and federal regulations on the auto industry. To pile on new regulations, Congressman Rogers says, without any substantive help, is a cruel blow to Michigan workers and their families. Who's right, the president or Congressman Rogers?
Well, first of all, I think the president asked the EPA to take a look at these regulations. But here's if you can imagine that there would be 50 states regulating the building of automobiles in 50 different ways, that doesn't make sense. If we as a nation have a national commitment to reducing emissions, we should have one strong national standard. Otherwise, what amount of certainty can the auto industry have that they're building a car that's going to end up in California or Texas or somewhere else? You have to have strong national standards, a strong national commitment, and that way the auto industry can gauge their building of platforms toward that national standard. The president himself has said that he wanted to streamline the production of these automobiles, that you want to have multiple vehicles perhaps on the same platform by one particular auto company. Well, you can't do that if you've got engines that have to be built to the tune of 50 different states. So let's have a tough standard, but a national standard.
You are both chief executives, meaning you both have cabinets. You need to pick appointees to fill out your administration and carry on the day-to-day business of state government. President Obama promised to change things in Washington. He promised an honest and open administration. Governor Pawlenty, to you first. We have a Treasury Secretary who had to pay more than $30,000 in back taxes. We now learned over the weekend that the President's Choice for Health and Human Services Secretary, Tom Daschle, had to pay more than $100,000 in back taxes, in part for not reporting as income a free limousine, a driver and a chauffeur that he received. Would you put in powerful positions, critical positions in your state government, Governor Pawlenty, people with those problems?
Well, I'm not sure that President Obama knew about those problems before he nominated those individuals. You'd hope he did through the vetting process, and if he didn't, perhaps there was a flaw in that process. Now, those are concerning developments. There are serious indications that, of course, with the case of Secretary Geithner, he's already been approved. I don't know that President Obama, had he known the full extent of those problems or concerns, would have nominated those individuals. I guess the question would be, did he know that? Did he know they had those problems before he nominated them? If he did, I would have suggested perhaps they would have picked somebody else who would have been a better course.
Well, Governor Granholm, as Governor Pawlenty noted, Secretary Geithner has been confirmed. Senator Daschle is still waiting confirmation. Should that disqualify him in your view? And again, you're a governor of a blue-collar state. When people hear, here's a guy who left the Senate, he had a free driver, he had a free sedan driving him around, and he didn't think, even though he was on the Finance Committee once and he should know the tax laws, didn't think he had to declare that as income.
It's my understanding that he just learned that he had to pay this in August of this year, and he had intended to pay it in this income tax filing that he would make. He alerted the president, as did Geithner, and they fixed the problems, or they're going to fix the problems. So the bottom line is, are you picking people who are going to carry out your policy in a way that helps people on the ground in states? Senator Daschle has a long commitment to universal access to affordable health care. That's part of the Obama administration's plan. He is going to be a phenomenal head of Health and Human Services, and I'm excited that he's there for us. I can tell you, in Michigan, that's one of the reasons why our auto industry has been uncompetitive, is because we don't have a uniquely American solution to the cost of health care that's burdening businesses, not just the auto industry across this country, as they compete with businesses in countries who provide health care. So the fact that Senator Daschle, hopefully Secretary-to-be Daschle, has that commitment and has an expertise in it, and he's fixed these problems that have come up, yes, in the vetting, and he alerted people in advance. Let's get on with it. Let's do what's important to people, which is health care.
Democrat Jennifer Granholm of Michigan, Republican Tim Pawlenty of Minnesota. Governors, thank you both for joining us this morning, and we wish you the best of luck dealing with these tough times in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you so much.